Today we're going to be looking at Iroiro in the color Deep Blue. So first thing you may notice is that my swatches are labeled 1 through 12. I do just want to say that those numbers are not synonymous with hair levels or anything. I do different video clips and pictures and such throughout the video, so numbers just help us keep track of each swatch. These are human hair swatches, but the only one that's going to be virgin hair is the number 4, which is the black swatch. The rest have been chemically colored, bleached, or treated at some point in their existences. 1 is pink, 2 is a cool tone gray, 3 is a natural red, 4 again is black. So 4 to 11 is a range that goes to platinum blonde, and then 12 is like a toned version of number 11. So I'm going to start by taking the color directly from the container, and I will put it at the top of each swatch. Some people do like to dilute their dyes, so I will do a diluted version at the bottom of each swatch. So please keep in mind, everyone's hair again is different, which means everyone's hair will take color differently, plus different screens and monitors and whatnot can make colors look a little different as well. So please just use my video as a reference for how this could possibly maybe turn out for you. For the diluted section, we're going to do an 8:1 ratio. So that's going to be 1 part of the dye to 8 parts diluter. I do get questions about what diluter is. So my simple answer that I like to give is that it essentially lightens the color of a semi-permanent dye. Usually most brands will sell their own version of a diluter, so you can always use that if it makes you more comfortable. It will keep the same consistency as the dye that you're using. But to keep things fair between all of my videos, I always just use a plain white conditioner as my diluter. I'm gonna let these sit for about 3 hours so the swatches have time to fully absorb the color. I will then rinse them out, and when they're dry, I will meet you back here and we can look at some comparisons. So I like to remind everyone again that my swatches are not virgin hair. So if you have virgin hair, especially darker virgin hair, you're more likely to have a different results than what happened here for mine. Now I will say that this dye does seem to be pretty pigmented, so it would be a little bit better if you do have hair that is resistant, but it never hurts to do a strand test. So this blue does have a kind of cool tone look, but I would say when you dilute it, you can actually see that it's not like a super true cool tone. So number 1 originally was pink, and I think the pink kind of helped to cancel out any of the warmth, like the green tones in the dye, because it definitely looks probably the most cool tone on the number 1 swatch. Hopefully you can kind of see just how warm this looks in comparison to the number 1. 2 was originally gray. I think in that one it actually for the first time looks a little bit more warm in undertone than it does on the number 11 and 12. It was a more bluish gray to begin with, so I don't know if that has any impact on how the color turned out. 3 originally was the natural red. Now 3, 5, and I think 6 kind of turned out similar. So I don't think the reddish undertones really played too big of a role. Sometimes it can, especially with like colors that have some greenish in them. But this time around, it all looks pretty much the same. So on the top, it kind of looks like it made it a cool tone brown, maybe you could say. Almost leaning to black. The diluted sections are obviously a lot lighter than the direct dye portion, but overall, they still kind of have a brownish look. I think the number 3 absorbed the color a little bit better because I do see a little bit more coolness on the number 3. Again, the red could have maybe canceled out some of those green tones, but it's not wildly different from 5 or 6 even. 4 was the black. I do not see a difference on there. I'd say 7 and 8 turned out pretty similar. Obviously, as the hair gets lighter, the more saturated the blue looks. So 8 does look a little bit more saturated than 7, but the bluish tones are a little bit harder to see on the swatches that lean a little bit darker. I think 10, 11, and 12 for the direct dye portion look the most blue. I think the color of the swatches before being dyed also play a role in how the blue turns out. It is pretty normal for blues to look almost a little bit more green on darker hair, kind of how it looks on the diluted sections. So there's a lot more warmth, I would say, in the top of these that make it just look less blue. I would say if you're doing the deep blue, not diluted, just direct dye, close to platinum would probably be best, but even on number 10, I think it looks pretty good as well. I think getting it as light as possible is a little bit more important for the diluted sections. As you can see, even on number 10, it does just have a slightly more green tone. And if you want to try and avoid that altogether, toning your hair first may actually give you a pretty good result because I don't see a ton of green coming through on the 12. 11's not bad either, but I do see more warmth on 11 than I do in number 12. And I do kind of wonder if you were to tone your hair before dyeing it, even if you use the direct dye, I kind of wonder if it would help the dye from fading green. If you've used this color before, please feel free to share your experience, especially with fading. All right, as for comparisons, I have no exact matches, but I have pretty similar ones. So let's start with Lunar Tides in the color Blue Velvet. This is comparable to number 12, 11, 10, and 9. So in my opinion, I think the Blue Velvet might be just a touch more warm, but it is such a small difference that it's very hard to tell the difference. I think the biggest difference is actually more so the depth. So deep blue is much darker, whereas Blue Velvet is a little bit lighter, so you can almost see the blue coming through a little bit better on camera. They both have a very cool toned look on top, but then when you look at the diluted section, you can see a little bit more warmth coming through, so it's not a super true cool tone blue, but it does lean in that direction. The other comparison I wanted to look at today is Good Dye Young in the color Blue Ruin. This is comparable to number 12, number 11, number 10, and number 9. I think if you're somebody whose hair tends to look quite warm when it's lightened, you may want to look for a blue that does lean a little bit more cool tone to try and counteract any of the warmth that might come through. So something like the Good Dye Young Blue Ruin might be a better option for you if that's the look that you're going for. It is a very, very cool tone blue. I'd say the depth is pretty similar, but you can see when it's diluted, it just looks a little bit less green. I think it's especially easy to see on the tone swatch as well. The other comparison that I was considering doing today that I ultimately did not was Overtone in the color Extreme Blue. I would probably say that it's close in undertone to the Good Dye Young, where it's pretty cool tone blue, but it is a lot lighter. It's not quite as deep. So if I remember correctly, the Good Dye Young Blue Ruin is the most pigmented out of the 3 options. All right, now I'd like to look at our before and after clips. Those, as well as everything past this point in the video, is all going to be done in natural lighting. I hope my video helped. If you have a request, I do have a link below to a Google form you can fill out. Just remember, I only do brands that do not test on animals. Thank you so very, 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 very much to my patrons, and thank you so very, very much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.